Sorry.
I'd like to call the Township of North Huntington Board of Commissioners work session meeting for Thursday, October 9th, 2025. Roll call, Manager Falk.
Commissioner Hempel,
Here.
Commissioner Atwood,
Here.
Commissioner Gray,
Here.
Commissioner Zona,
Here.
Commissioner Bevan,
Here.
Commissioner McHugh,
Here.
President Hagus.
Here, could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If any residents would like to speak tonight, could you please sign the book at the podium? First resident is Nick. If you could come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Nick, and I'm a resident of North Huntington Township. I come before you this evening not as an enemy of this township, but as a man whose constitutional rights, both federal and state level, have been violated repeatedly by those sworn to uphold them. I stand here as a citizen, a journalist, and a father, appealing not for privilege, but for protection under the very laws that govern us all. Since July 27th of 2025, I've been arrested 3 separate times, each incident a continuation of an escalating pattern of retaliation and abuse of authority. Not for crimes, but for courage, for exercising rights guaranteed to every American under the Constitution. On July 27th, I lawfully entered the North Huntington Police Department to seek answers for this community about stolen vehicles, methamphetamine trafficking, and assaults against the elderly. Instead of transparency, I was met with hostility. Instead of dialogue, I was met with handcuffs. I was arrested without warrant, without probable cause, without an affidavit, and without being brought before a judge. My phones and cameras were seized. No warrant, no paperwork, no Miranda warning. I was kicked out of the front door with nothing documenting my detention. Only the next day was an affidavit written, and only on July 29th were charges filed. Those are clear violations of the Fourth Amendment and Article 1, Section 8 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. Grestine v. Paul requires prompt judicial review of any detention. That was not law enforcement, it was lawless enforcement. The second wave of charges came on August 13th, 2025. After my July 16th public address where I spoke for 6 minutes instead of 5, I never refused to leave. I simply refused to quit speaking until I got my grievance on the record, as I have a constitutional right to do under the First Amendment and Article 1, Section 7 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. Yet the township's investigation into the meeting didn't begin until July 29th, the very same day the first charges were filed. That's retaliation disguised as law. In Fields v. City of Philadelphia, the court held that citizens have a clearly established right to record and criticize public officials performing their duties. And in City of Houston v. Hill, the Supreme Court ruled the First Amendment protects a significant amount of verbal criticism and challenge directed at police officers. When government punishes its citizens for speech, it ceases to be a republic and starts to slowly become a regime. My third arrest came on October 3rd, 2025, and this time it was brought forward by the Pennsylvania State Police. The charge alleged that I endangered a public safety official under 18 PA Criminal Statute subsection 2719A2, all because of a Facebook post from July 1st, a post containing publicly available photos the officer himself had uploaded to his unrestricted account, an account that remains unrestricted to this day with the same photos in question. The post included a call to action for my fellow citizens. If they too did not condone the officer's conduct, I said they should exercise their right to give him the middle finger should they see him in public. That gesture and my invitation to engage in it are clearly protected speech under the First Amendment. In Cohen v. California, the Supreme Court held that a citizen wearing a jacket reading, "Fuck the draft," this is from a Supreme Court case, guys, okay, "Fuck the draft," was engaging in protected expression. And Duren v. Douglas, the court ruled that giving the middle finger to a police officer is a form of expression. Ron Zona, a lifelong police officer, right? That's not a threat, that's dissent, and dissent is the heartbeat of democracy. Charging me under 2719 for symbolic protected speech is not only unconstitutional, it's a perversion of justice and a weaponization of state power designed to intimidate both me and anyone who might dare to speak out. To make matters even more alarming, the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office is now prosecuting me on all 3 of these charges, escalating the situation in what can only be described as a desperate attempt to keep you, the public, from hearing what I have to say. Instead of addressing misconduct within this township, they are weaponizing the full weight of the Commonwealth to suppress a journalist, a citizen, and a father who refuses to be silent. That's not justice, it's persecution. Article 6 of the United States Constitution, the Supremacy Clause, states, "This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof shall be the supreme law of the land." No township ordinance, no police policy, and no commissioner's silence may override it. The 5th and 14th Amendments in Article 1, Section 9 of the Pennsylvania Constitution guarantee that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. Yet I was detained without cause, my property seized without warrant, and my speech criminalized without justification. This is a total and complete disregard for the Constitution, and it is unconscionable. Therefore, before this board and before the people, I demand that all charges against me be withdrawn immediately, that all property seized on July 27 be returned without delay, that formal written apologies be issued by the police department and this board, that an independent outside agency be referred to the conduct and a full investigation into the conduct of the North Huntington Police Department, the behavior of the township officials, and the township's financial and ethical practices.
Nick, your time's up, but I'll give you a little bit of
I
time
am
to wrap up.
very close to
Yep,
the
you
end,
can
and I
wrap up.
appreciate
Yep.
that, Zach. And I also demand that this statement be publicly discussed with motions made, seconds called, and votes taken. The bare minimum you can do is acknowledge the people who come here to speak. You do not get to pick and choose who deserves an answer. Every citizen who stands at this podium deserves a response. You took an oath to uphold the Constitution. That oath means something. Silence in the face of abuse is complicity. When a government punishes speech, seizes property without cause, and manipulates the law to silence critics, it's not democracy, it's tyranny. And when citizens refuse to bow to it, that's America. So again, I say the weaponization of power against the people ends now. I demand accountability, I demand transparency, and I demand the return of my rights. The era of silence ends here. And in closing, fuck you, Ron Zona.
Any other residents would like to speak tonight that didn't get a chance to sign the book at the podium? All right, not seeing any response to citizen input.
Of course not. Of course not.
All right, work session discussion topics, Manager Falk.
Item number 1, the 2026 budget discussion. As we continue to prepare the 2026 budget, it is crucial to thoughtfully restructure our financial plan, not only to maintain the current level of service to our community, but to also ensure we can properly sustain and enhance our infrastructure with a particular focus on roads and stormwater systems. The last property tax increase in North Huntington Township occurred in 2006, when the rate was raised from 8.23 mils to 10.23 mils. In 2013, that rate was reduced by 1 mil to the current 9.23 mils, resulting in a revenue loss of approximately $5.6 million throughout the years. Last month, the administration presented a proposal to the board to implement a stormwater fee. During our evaluation of a fair and equitable fee structure for the township's 14,000 plus residential properties, it became evident that achieving true fairness would require a level of time and resources that we currently cannot sustain. With that understanding, we shifted our focus to identifying a sustainable funding solution that would allow us to effectively address ongoing stormwater concerns and major infrastructure projects. The proposed budget we will review tonight reflects that effort and outlines a path forward. The current 2026 proposed budget summary is as follows that we will go over tonight. A tax increase from 9.23 mils to a 10.73 mils, which is a 1.5 mil tax increase. Elimination of the per capita tax. This will create an additional $544,900 in revenue for the general fund. Also move the recreation revenue and expenditures to the park fund. Move the storm drainage, concrete, road improvements, stone, and capital projects to the capital reserve fund. 4 additional employees to the Public Works Department for anticipated retirements, and a part-time civilian evidence room manager position. For the park fund, the fee in lieu payments will eventually go away as land development dwindles. With increased sponsorships and park programs, we need to keep those funds separate to ensure that those funds are being used for park programs and upgrades. The park fund will now become a sustainable fund and meet the comments from the 2023 comprehensive plan. The capital reserve fund increased the millage from 1 mill to 3 mills. That is a 2 mill tax increase. This will create an additional $800,000 in revenue. Our public works fleet is aging, and this additional revenue will allow the administration to develop a schedule to replace equipment as needed. $810,900 will be budgeted for stormwater projects, $565,000 of that which will be for capital projects. As we strategically plan for 2026 and beyond, we recommend a temporary shift from our traditional annual road improvement program. In 2026, paving efforts will focus exclusively on roads that are both in critical condition and serve high traffic volumes, such as Norwin Avenue and Coulterville Road. This approach will allow our Public Works Department to prioritize stormwater projects associated with future road improvements, enabling us to prepare those roads earlier in the season. By aiming to pave in the spring rather than the fall, we anticipate receiving more competitive bids and better pricing. Additionally, this strategy will give our capital reserve and liquid fuels fund the opportunity to grow, positioning us to tackle larger infrastructure projects in 2027 and 2028. Given the rising cost of health care, wages, essential commodities, our current funding sources are no longer sufficient to sustain the level of service our taxpayers have come to expect. Without additional revenue, we will be forced to make difficult decisions, such as reducing our workforce, limiting road paving, and delaying or canceling important projects. To prevent service reductions and project delays, we must take decisive action now. A tax increase is essential, not only to maintain the high level of service our residents expect, but to also continue investing in road paving and vital infrastructure improvements. I firmly believe that the proposed funding adjustments will provide a sustainable impact for at least the next decade, ensuring long-term stability and progress for our community. Now, as we dive into the budget tonight, we're going to discuss our general fund, our parks fund, and our capital reserve fund. So as you can see, our general fund summary, in 2017, we had a deficit of $382,000. In 2018, we had a deficit of $685,000, and in 2019, a deficit of $879,000. The prior manager at that time, Mr. Silka, advised the board that there is a need to increase taxes, that we were going down a road that was unsustainable. The highlighted years of 2020 and 2021 and 22 and 23 are the COVID years. As you can see, we operated a surplus. Not only we shut down a lot of things, we did less services, but also we received influx of ARPA money. So as you can see, before COVID, up to 2020, the revenues, which is the blue line, and the expenditures is the orange line, you can see, is outpacing the revenues. And then COVID happened. We received $3.2 million in ARPA funding, which really helped put a Band-Aid on the budget. But then, as you can see, in 23, after the pandemic, going into 2026, we've stabilized our revenues and expenditures back to where it should be. Our tax history, as you can see, the top line, the green line, is our earned income tax. That's our major tax income that we received. That has steadily increased, but it's starting to level off. The spike in the next line down is our real estate tax. You can see that spike there is that proposed tax increase of 1.5 mills. And of course, our other taxes of per capita tax, business tax, real estate transfer tax are all level under $1 million. Our wage history has gone up. A lot of this has to do with the contracts and the employees that we have. We have well-educated employees, and we have an excellent public works and police department. In 2022, we had 95 employees, and our wages that year were $6.5 million. In 2026, we have 3 less employees at 92, and our wages are $7.5 million. But you can see how they've steadily increased. They leveled in 2024 and 2025 with a small increase with less employees. But our biggest thing is our health insurance. As you can see, going back in 2023, at 78 employees that had health insurance, that total cost of that year was $1.3 million. And then for retirees, it was $273,000. In 2026, the same amount of employees, our tax or health insurance jumps up $400,000 to $1.7 million. And our retirees have increased about $100,000 up to $375,000. So these are costs that we cannot control. This is the health market. And here's a show from, or a slide from our healthcare provider showing how the health cost has increased going back since 2000. It used to be, $4,500 or $4,800 a year, or $6,400 a year for a family. Now that family's $25,000 a year. 24 years. So in 2006, the millage was raised from 8.23 to 10.23, and that budget at the time was at $9 million. In 2023, the millage was lowered from 10.23 to 9.23, and the budget at that time was $11.4 million. In 2026, we're proposing that general fund to be increased by 1.5 mils for a budget of 15.7, which is historically where we've been in the past few years, and 2 mils for the capital reserve, increasing that budget from $400,000 up to $1.4 million. And as I pointed out, when the millage was lowered, the township has lost out on $5.6 million. I can only assume if the board at that time did not lower the millage, we would probably not be increasing the millage here tonight. But that was a decision from that time. So some people have made comments, well, what about grants? Go after grants. Well, since 2022, these are the grants that we have obtained. Our police department at $1.2 million, our Lincoln Hills Retention Pond, $191,000, the Pine Hollow Road, $180,000. The LSA, we got 4 vehicles for that for $139,000. Pickleball court, $100,000. The LSA grants for the tractor and mower boom at $70,000, and the cameras, park cameras at $35,000. Our license plate readers at $26,000. The 2023 comprehensive plan, $25,000. SWAT vest, $10,000. Crime scene camera kit at $5,000 for our detectives, and a county local arts grant at $200,000. So as you can see, we go after about any grant that we can find, even down to $200. So we've had $1.9 million in grants since 2022. That's how we've gotten to kick the can down the road this far, along with the help of the ARPA money. The current grants that are out there that we've submitted that we're waiting to hear on is the DCNR Indian Lake Park Rehab for $655,000, the Kenda Dam for $132,000, the Indian Lake Park Rehab at $287,000, the another Indian Lake Park Rehab at $132,000, and the trail feasibility study at $23,000. And then we're currently working on one for the LSA statewide grant for $1 million for the Indian Lake. So for $1.2 million, and then next month it'll be $2.2 million. So we do our due diligence of trying to obtain as much grant money as we can. Commissioner Atwood asked about paying off the current loans that we have. These are the current loans that we have on our vehicles. We have a 2025 dump truck and a 24 dump truck for that amount. And mind you, we still have outstanding $140,000. This is just for the chassis. But to outfit these trucks, it's about $70,000 each. that is still outstanding. We're going to pay cash for that. We're not going to finance that part. The street sweeper, we still have $143,000 left on it, and the mower and tractor boom, which the board just approved last month, is $178,000 for a total of $538,000 that we have out there that's financed. That's the only debt that North Huntington Township has. No other debt except for $538,000. So what does that look like? So if we were to pay that off out of our savings account, we would drop our savings account from $4.7 million down to $4.1 million. But we're still above that 25% mark of our policy that we have to that we want to retain 25% of our revenues in our savings account. I've thought a lot about this, and we'll go into further detail, show you why. I only recommend using that amount of money from the savings account is if we're going to increase taxes, because once this money is gone, it is gone. We can't, if there's no tax increase, we can't even afford to save money for the future. But my recommendation would be not to pay off those, but put that $538,000 or the $530,000 towards projects, particularly towards McKee Road. You know, we only did Pine Hollow last year because we received a $180,000 grant. If we didn't receive that grant, we wouldn't have been coming to the board, you know, moving forward with that project. But because we got half of that project out of a grant, that's why. But our main upticks on complaints are on McKee Road and Roth Drive, and that's really what we need to focus. We'll get the most bang of our money to help the residents, and we'll get the credits that we need for the MS4 funding. So this is what we need for next year. The police have been nice to go down from getting their 3 vehicles every year down to 1 because Public Works needs a lot of equipment. Mr. Hugnicksey has put in for 2 zero-turn mowers for the parks. That is $50,000 for both. 2 trailers, $20,000. We need a backhoe for $125,000, an excavator priced at $132,000 for a total of $387,000. So with that, you can understand why it's prudent to finance those vehicles, because if we bought these 4 vehicles and there was no tax increase, well, that would wipe out the general or the capital reserve fund. It would just wipe it out. But by financing it, it increases the cash flows. Now, is John going to get all these next year? It's possible, but again, that's all dependent on the tax increases. Because if there is no tax increase in the capital reserve, then he's probably only going to get 1 mower, 1 trailer, and we're going to come to the board and ask to finance either the backhoe and the excavator. And you know, if you look at our general fund budget, our vehicle maintenance and repairs has gone up drastically. We spend over $100,000 a year in repairing vehicles for Public Works because they're just aging. We just spent $12,000 to repair, was it the excavator? Or the end loader? The backhoe. The backhoe, we just spent $12,000 to repair that. But again, you know, if this is purchased, then we can go out and sell that and try to recoup some of our money. But again, they need this equipment. So if we don't pay off the loans, this is the best case scenario. If we do not pay off the loans, and there are tax increases, if the board approves the tax increases, we would be able to maintain that $4.7 million in our savings account. So then we can they'll jump it up to 30%. And then we can use that $500,000 towards stormwater projects. So it'll increase, instead of $500,000 budgeted for stormwater, now we can budget $1 million. And we can do McKee Road and Roth Drive moving forward next year. So the 2026 budget expenditures by summary by each department, our budget is decreasing overall by 11%. Because remember this year, we're increased the budget by $1.7 million. We pulled $1 million out of our savings account, and we had a $500,000 surplus, and we put all that money towards Pine Hollow Road and Frog Road and Scotch Hill Road to fix those stormwater complaints. And as I mentioned last year, that this budget is not sustainable. We cannot keep doing those major projects. But, every department has done a good job. You can see the decreases throughout what we can. They've gone through line item by line item to do the best that we can. So we need $15.7 million to operate our current level of service for next year. And the proposed budget, we need an additional $500,000 somewhere just to balance the budget. But here's some of the major projects. If you recall last year, we went over through these. The Haywood Road culvert replacement, $750,000. Stormwater detention ponds and stream bank stabilization at $800,000. The Roth Drive culvert replacement at $625,000. The McKee Road channel restoration at $200,000. The Mahaffey Hill Road guide rail replacement, $180,000. This is just a few. This is what Mr. Grabiak has on his list that we need to do of all this stormwater work that we've received complaints. Again, I can't stress enough, if there's no tax increase, then these projects will not get done. It'll be really hard to do these, and we're going to have to explain to the taxpayers, we're sorry, we just don't have much money. So again, even with this is my favorite slide because everybody says you raise taxes, raise taxes. We don't raise the taxes. Only 8% of your new tax bill is going to be paid for, goes to North Huntington Township, and we provide the most. We plow your roads, we maintain your roads, we cut the sides of the roads, we maintain your parks. We have an excellent staff here that handles all your complaints. But again, with the increase in taxes, only 8% of your tax bill covers about 99% of the things that you do in North Huntington Township. So here's a summary of the revenue and expenditures for the general fund and the capital reserve with those tax increases. With the general fund, a $1.5 million tax increase, no need to rely on surplus or reserves to balance the budget, and then eliminate the per capita tax. As we get closer to the end of the year to get the final number, if you recall this year's budget, we had $500,000 surplus to carry over from 2024 to 2025. This year, we're projecting only $50,000. So we're using the money for these projects. Our capital reserve increased from $400,000 to $1.4 million. It's a $2 million tax increase. This will fund stormwater projects, capital purchases, and capital projects. So what does that tax increase look like, that $3.5 million tax increase? The average assessed value of property in North Huntington Township is $24,000, so about a $74 increase for that, for the whole year, $74. For a $50,000 assessed property, you'll see a tax increase of about $165 a year. For a $100,000 assessed property, jumps up to $340 and so forth. Are there any questions?
I guess I'm going to start off. Questions, maybe just comments. First of all, Manager Falk, great presentation. Everybody in your department putting this together did their homework. It really is black and white where we are. The comment or question I guess I have, just because I've been hearing neighboring communities around us, and there again I see your presentation on grants, and I know as previous meetings you have presented to us the grants that we have received, and in the page of all the grants that we have received, it's very impressive. But just a question that I've been hearing from other neighbors, like I mentioned, they actually pay a grant writer, would that be something that we could benefit by bringing somebody on that, are we missing any, maybe that we don't know about, grants that we maybe could go out and get somebody? If we had somebody specifically that would, that's all they do, grant writing.
For as much talent we have here, it would be a waste of money for us.
Okay.
You know, you're typically hiring a grant writer to go after major federal grants. We just don't have the resources to do that. And quite honestly, with the federal government shut down, I'm sure that grant funding is drying up. But no, we have well-educated employees here that work on the grants. I mean, the police department got the big one at $1.2 million. I mean, that speaks volumes. You know, the other ones have been, you know, myself and Lydia, and we're training others in the department to do that as well. We had a grant workshop here a few years ago where former state representative George Dunbar was here, and we had a great class with multiple municipalities and agencies that came. So no, we do a very good job. I'm very pleased with us going after these grants.
And please, as I mentioned, you have it black and white here on paper. No, nothing, because I see what you guys and your team is doing. So I just wanted to ask that question just for asking to see if that would be something. And the other thing I just wanted to make a comment of, and years ago I can remember a financial advisor that I went to told me that I wanted to pay cash for a vehicle that I wanted to purchase. And that financial advisor always told me, never be in a hurry to give our money away, or your money away. So I've always took that and finance vehicles because you have the payment, but you always have the money in the bank. So that's just something that I always learned. So I wouldn't never be in a hurry to give our money away.
I do have a couple questions. The budget for 26 versus 25, is it less than this year's, or is it more than this year's, the total amount?
For which year?
From last year to this year?
Last year's budget was at $17.7 million. This year's budget is at 15.7 million, 15.6 million, or no, I'm sorry.
So we still have cut out a
We've
tremendous amount.
We've cut out about 100 or $1.6 million. But last year's
About
budget,
10%.
Last year's was 17,714 and some change, and then the proposed for 2026 will be 16,998 and some change.
Yep.
no, it'll be 15.79 million. The difference is the $1.9 million difference from last year to this year. And this year's budget was balanced with $1.4 million coming from the savings account and a $500,000 surplus. And we're only anticipating a $50,000 surplus going into 2026.
So the budget itself is down next year from this year, so we have
Yes.
made some significant cuts.
Yes, but some of that is because of I took out the storm, we're not doing the stormwater projects. They're being transferred, they're moved into the capital reserve. When the board created that fund in the ordinance, it does state in that ordinance it could be used for infrastructure improvements, which gives us that leeway to do that. And plus, I moved the park funding out, which is only about it's $133,000. I moved that out of the general fund and put that into the parks fund, so that way the parks fund is now, will hopefully become sustainable.
So, total money that we're spending from last year, regardless of what fund it's coming out of, and total money that we're spending this year, proposed to spend next year, out of all the funds, do we know what that looks like, the total amounts?
Let me do some math here.
is it that 1.4 added to the 15?
It's going to be $1.3 million more.
Okay,
$1.3 million more in
are-
spending because we've increased the taxes. But the bulk of that is out of the capital reserve fund.
okay. But both funds are funded through the same, well, the same mechanisms, the same taxing mechanism, the
Yes.
property tax.
Yes.
So regardless if we collect it and put it in one fund or collect it and put it in another fund, we're still collecting the tax. So if
We're
we
still
look,
collecting the tax, but yes, but keeping it, pulling it into a different account will, one, increase the transparency, but two, ensuring that that money of raising the taxes to mills for the capital reserve is ensuring that that money gets spent towards
Spent on
the
capital
stormwater, gets spent on capital projects and capital improvement projects and capital items. Whereas if it stays in the general fund, it gets commingled with other expenses and revenue.
okay,
So it's, the main thing is the transparency and knowing that we have, that with that tax increase up to to $1.4 million in the capital reserve, now we can strategize and put a strategic plan together for the next 5 years, to say, okay, the next 5 years, we're gonna generate X, Y, Z. Now, we have the funding, we could put a plan together.
okay. So our total spending is 1.3 million more.
Correct.
So the budget's not going down, it's just being moved. Because I was questioning, why are we gonna raise taxes if our budget's less than what it was last year? But no, we're just moving it to other funds
We're
to make
moving it
sure
to- yeah.
it's allocated to go to the proper infrastructure.
Correct.
Things. Okay. My other question was about the paying off the loan. Since we're already locked into a loan, you know, we're obviously paying interest on that. I mean, it's been a very long time since I've done that math on a regular basis, but, I mean, $500,000, 6% interest over 5 years is
We're
gonna
about
be a little over
5%.
100,000. It's gonna be over 100,000, so that's money that we're paying a bank to finance, when we could pay for it out of ours and then pay ourselves back, rather than paying the bank the extra $100,000 interest, and that's $100,000 we can use for something else in the budget. So that was my concern about having the debt, is the money we're paying in interest could be used to fund things for the residents.
Okay.
So that's my
That makes
concern
sense.
about that. So those were my two things. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board or comments?
Yes. In your narrative, you say that we would be forced to make difficult decisions if we don't raise taxes.
Mhm.
That's why we're here.
Mhm.
We get the hard work. And your projection that you would see us bringing in enough money, sustainable impact for at least 10 years, next decade. I find it hard how you can predict that when you're right now just said we could plan for 5 years. It's my opinion that we don't manage the money we have right now well. And I agree with Commissioner Atwood there about paying interest. How many times did we amend the budget this year?
To date, just once.
And what was that for?
I'd have to look back, but
Okay. I thought it was more than that, but do you recall last year by chance?
I believe
wanna
it was
say-
2 or 3 the previous years. That's because we
Yeah.
received grant money.
Okay. But moving expenditures from one item to, or from one line item to another, is kind of, to me, connotes the perception that we're trying to hide something. Well, we don't have the money here, so let's pay it out of there, robbing Peter to pay Paul, per se. Has anyone ever said to you, what can we cut? I think you know the board's position is very strong on police, very strong on public safety and infrastructure and stuff. What would you cut if you had to? We're adding 4 new
Right.
people in public works, right?
We're adding 4 because we're anticipating about anywhere between 5 to 6 are retiring going into 2027.
Okay. Many companies, for-profit companies, wait until somebody leaves to hire that, so you're not duplicating the expense. You said 1 in police, right? For evidence
For
room tech
part-time,
or
yes.
something, part-time. We're adding 5 employees at least. I just don't think we managed the money well. I complained before and voted against numerous things. I went over that last month. I just feel like if we just arbitrarily or raise taxes, it's going to go the same way as the money we currently have goes. We're going to urinate it away, being polite there, on things like signs and mid-year raises and all the other things that I listed before, which I forget right now. Donations to charity, garbage cans in the parks. I think the fee in lieu of program for parks was created to preserve the parks. I don't believe it was created for programming. And you want to move the programming expense to the fee in lieu of category, and that's not why we have it. It's to maintain the parks and upkeep. So I'm not leaning the way you're leaning, I'll say that.
Well, the fee in lieu money will still be budgeted for parks increases, or I mean, for park improvements, for park maintenance, for
Right.
park preservation. The revenue side for the sponsorships and the program fees that are coming in are going to go out for the program fees, for the expenses for the program fees and the programs that we
Okay.
offer. So there will still be a balance there for park showing that. So the money, if we get $15,000 for fee in lieu money, there's going to be $15,000 budgeted for park maintenance or park improvements.
Okay.
But as you mentioned, as cutting back, I anticipate when we have at least 1 police officer retire, in the next year, not filling that. Same with Public Works. I'm going to take those 4 employees out and wait until, well, we do know that that we're going to have at least a minimum of 4 retiring. That's why I cut it back from 8 to 4 from last month to this month. Those won't get hired until, December, January, November or December of next year, right, when they're getting out the door. So those snow routes will get affected. As far as paving, the paving's going to drop in miles of road. We're going to I would budget the liquid fuels money, some of that portion to cover for the salt. That'll help with, approximately $300,000 to $400,000 out of the general fund. So if we use our liquid fuels mainly for paving, and that's $1.1 million. Now it's going to go down to, 1.7, 1.8 million. there's going to be a lot of those decisions made. McKee Road, Roth Drive, probably kick the can down the road even further until we get a grant. But even if we apply for grants, not all grants are 100% funded. The Indian Lake Park, we have to do that, and that's, $1.2, $1.3 million project. And our goal is we're applying for grants even for the match, because we have to come up with about $500,000 or $600,000 in matching funds for that. And we're applying for grants for that match. So that way there's no taxpayers' money for that. Because if we don't get those grants, more than likely, we're not going to be able to do that project. Which means, no one can walk, when the bridge finally collapses, can't drive a car or vehicles over it because the middle beam is rotted. There's already weight restriction. When that bridge collapses, we're going to have to find money to fix it out of our own pockets. But those are my thoughts. Like, if there is no tax increase, and go back to the drawing board, there's going to be one less police officer, 4 less public works for at least 5 months. We're going to spend down that capital. We're going to spend down that reserve money. We're just going to keep drawing. We're just going to keep spending it, and there's going to be no mechanism in place to keep that going. It's going to dry up in 2 or 3 years down the road.
And there's nowhere else to cut.
We have cut as much as we can. If there's anything in that line item that you think that can be cut, please let me know. And I'll explain why.
I'm waiting for the president to weigh in on what he always does.
Well, since you asked me, Commissioner Gray, I've been on a podium. I could probably put a same number, maybe even higher than your number because Commissioner Gray and myself were only 2 around that decreased taxes back in the day, and we did that at a time because we had a surplus of money in our savings
Right.
account, and it was already prudent to not tax the residents more money with the amount we had in our savings. Plus, it was hurting the township when we were going to collective bargaining agreements and trying to actually negotiate faithfully. And they're saying, well, how can you not give the employees X, Y, and Z? You got all that money in the bank. So we didn't overtax the residents at that time for that reason. But back then, and I think people that probably halfway listen to our meetings probably hear me say my public announcement every time we do the budget. But I think we have a great dispatch department, but I just thought it was redundancy of services. I used to figure roughly a number about $500,000 we spend on dispatch between payroll, benefits, equipment, and whatnot. And it's nothing to discredit our staff because I think we're all top notch, but that's a redundance of services that gets provided by 911 dispatch. So, you've probably been on board too many years now, but that was $500,000 back then. I think I figured the numbers, so you're probably a little bit more than that now. And that's a recurring cost, just like, you said that we decreased the taxes, so we could probably have a few more million in the savings account or projects already shovel done by now. That's one, and like I said, it's nothing to discredit the staff down there. I think they're top-notch, world-class, but when you look for, in my opinion, of things that you could get rid of on a budget is redundancy of services, and I know that's, in my opinion, one. I know the level that our dispatchers give our police officers is obviously a lot better than they probably would get with the 911 county dispatchers because they know the roads and whatnot, and they service more than just a police department. I'm sure Public Works and every department uses them as a resource. But like I said, I just look at it as a redundancy of services that we have here. And I think ultimately that's, when you look at the cut things, you look at redundancies of services that either get provided at the county level or state level that we could eliminate from our budget.
Well, if I may, and this is speaking from experience, when I was at Munhall, we eliminated our dispatch center. We eliminated it because at that time they dispatched the fire, police, and EMS. The EMS went on a separate channel and we went to county, but then we just dispatched fire and police. That was the mindset of Munhall at that time, was to close the dispatch center to save money. In reality, that did not happen. We had 4 full-time employees. 2 of them went back into Public Works because they were in the union. 1 retired, and the other one went to another municipality. So essentially, we eliminated 2 positions. However, we had to hire another full-time person because of the walk-ins that came in. The dispatchers do more than just take calls. They're administrative assistants down there. I have 2 of them that assist me with the right to knows through the police department. But they handle walk-ins and they handle the filing and all the paperwork of the police officers. So with that being said, and along with, they take in or dispatch about, was it 14,000 calls a year?
Yeah,
And-
it's roughly about $14,000,
So
or
now we're-
14,000 incidents.
So now we're going to shift those 14,000 plus calls to the county 911 system. And are they even able to handle that? So now, we not only do we do that, that is going to put a public safety burden, or it's a public safety issue for that. But then, what we also had to do was we had to install special buzzards at the doors to handle walk-ins. So whenever there wasn't a police officer there, or if the clerk, the clerk that wasn't there, we had to install emergency phone lines outside, like panic buttons. So if you go up there, if no one's there to answer the door, or if they come into the lobby, there's nobody there, they had to press a button and it would kick over to the 911 center.
I mean, I'm not advocating that again.
I
Like I said, I
understand.
kind of gave up the fight because I
But-
knew there wasn't support for many years, so I stopped kind of bringing it up.
But I have been
to-
down
to
that road.
Commissioner Gray's point, when you bring up a
Yeah.
part-time evidence room manager, that could maybe be one of the dispatchers. Maybe we don't need this part-time when we're looking places to cut. Maybe that part-time evidence manager gets, put onto the dispatch, and the dispatchers get, a little overtime if they need it to do that work. And we're not hiring a person and paying possibly benefits. And I don't even know how, we would have to probably reach out to the union, even talk about part-time staffing with that too. So, I mean, that's areas, like I said, I mean, I know I brought that up for years, and like I said, kind of gave up on the dispatch because there was never support to eliminate it.
Well, if
But I
I
looked
may,
at that as redundant services that the residents are paying that fee for 911 dispatch between their cell phones and I think landlines, if people still have those. So those are monies that the residents are paying for, and then we're also paying for us to have a dispatch center. Now, granted, I think it is, like I said, world-class, and we have great employees down there, and they do a great job, and I think they do service us better than probably 911 would. But to pay for things twice, do you need that to tax residents more? And I've always said that. That was kind of my opinion then, and I would still hold true to it, but there's no support for it. I get that. But I think, like I said, you look at a part-time evidence room manager, that could maybe be a dispatcher, and maybe that dispatcher gets, 2 hours of overtime, a week or whatever it might be if they need that to get that job done. And I know that's low-hanging fruit, but there's probably other low-hanging fruit we could look at. And I know, I believe it was Commissioner Atwood brought it up. I mean, we're really talking about a 3.5%, 3.5 mil increase. I mean, I know it kept saying $1.5 million, but that's to the general. We're really talking about a 3. My main question was, I was open really more so than anything to the stormwater thing last month when we talked about that. I was kind of upset when I was looking at all this stuff that we just kind of gave up. And I know there will be a lot of work to be put in that, and maybe that's something that we want to do, early next year to look forward to next year's budget. But, so ultimately, what figures, and sorry, I mistaken the numbers from last month, what were we looking at to generate for the stormwater fee, like total?
About $1.8 million.
So, I mean, to me, that's a better option for the stormwater projects than to raise it, because if we would raise 2%, let's just say, with the recommended budget to the capital reserve fund, we're never going to take that out. Even if we visit this next year, we'll just say, well, then, yeah, well, maybe be a few more dump trucks we could buy. You're not saying we don't need them, but now that money's there and the residents already, bit the bullet, and now we're going to talk about another one. I'm just concerned about that. I was really open to the idea of the stormwater fee, and I know it's still a tax even though we're saying a fee, but that way, and I think like Manager Falk was kind of staying with some of the other stuff, to put things in, I don't call them silos or bins or accounts, that this is a stormwater fee account, that we're going to use this for stormwater projects. So I was more open to that idea, and I think I requested kind of a stormwater fee without a tax increase to see what the budget would look like.
Yeah, we discussed internally about the stormwater fee, and the main thing is we want to be fair and equitable for all the residents. We even narrowed it down to the zoning districts. But again, the amount of, we would anticipate a lot of credits coming through. And we would be inundated with the amount of credits coming in, the applications coming in, that we just don't have a dedicated team to do it. And
That's
to
why
make
I
it
was
fair and
concerned when
equal.
we were talking about the credits. To me, I
Right.
think we were kind of going on a slippery slope. I don't even think we should honor the whole credit part of doing the stormwater fee. I think the fee is what the fee is
Mhm.
to everybody, and however we would decide to do that. I was concerned when we were talking about that. I didn't bring that up last month, but I think that's a slippery slope in its own degree when we start talking about fees, because could just imagine staff time that would be allocated towards that. I think whatever the fee we would decide in the fee structure, it would just be that we wouldn't do any type of credits towards the fee, if that's even possible. Because I could have just imagined you didn't need a whole nother staff person just to look at all the credits that you would be getting and trying to allocate.
Right, and even if we wanted to escrow some of the money coming in for the nonprofits, just in case of the court case does file in their favor, you know, when that cash flow would come in, we wouldn't be able to decipher which is what. It would just be we would imagine just a lump sum, and we wouldn't be able to decipher whose is whose. It would probably be kind of hard to do that. But again, we didn't get that much down the weeds, just because we've discovered to make this fair, even though it's anywhere probably between, at the end of the day, $5 to $10, $5 difference per month. Our goal is always to make, try to be fair and honest with the taxpayer. But that's why we shifted away from the stormwater fee. It would just be too burdensome for the staff to do it. We would love to do it, quite honestly. It'd make things a lot, easier. But again, by doing that, we still have, we're still going to have to rely on the surplus and the savings account throughout the coming years to balance the budget for the general fund. Just because there's items outside of our control. The PMRS pension that I present to you later has increased $300,000 since 2023, to $1.6 million for next year, just the pension payments alone. But yeah, we try to cut as much low-hanging fruit as we can. The part-time civilian evidence room manager, I'll turn it over to Lieutenant McCurdy that can justify the need for that position.
Yeah, it would be a non-sworn civilian position, be 24 hours a week. As of now, we have a detective that is controlling most of the evidence. It's an ongoing issue with receiving, storing, and processing evidence. It's kind of like the mailroom, right? If you don't pay attention to it, it stacks up, and it stacks up quick. And this is very important items. The manager also is required to have a sworn officer that will be attached and oversee the room, but the manager will work mostly throughout the week, daylight hours. What that does, it frees up the patrolman that normally would do it part-time. He can stay on the road. He's not burdened with every day coming in, pulling evidence out of the security, logging it into the evidence, and it takes time. Also, when we have to return evidence, or if we have destruction orders, over time, we accumulate a lot of court cases with evidence that need to be destroyed. That has to be tracked. The chain of custody is paramount. We have to make sure that all the documentation is done properly, and again, it takes time. That's a lot of man-hours. To be honest with you, 24 hours a week is probably bare bones. It would make our police department run so much smoother. And I understand you guys are at a tight budget. I get it. But for efficiency purposes and to mainstream our process, it's very, very well needed. This isn't a luxury, to be honest with you. It's really not a luxury. We wouldn't be asking. We've cut, cars out of our budget. We're Band-Aiding cars together, some of them. We've got 2014 cars that are on the road. We're trying our best also with you to work in conjunction with you guys. I just, in my personal heart, I believe that this is something that's needed. It's not frivolous at all. So, and Zach, with all due respect, whenever someone calls my dispatch center a duplicate service, it's more than just call taking. So I have to defend them. They're great, and
they're great,
I know
yeah.
they're great people, but when you say they're a duplicate service, I just want to make sure the public knows they are not a duplicate service. So, but anyways,
And you all are more than welcome to go down there and spend a couple hours and see what exactly they do.
yeah,
And I would say on that note too, what ends up happening, because I witnessed it where I used to work, if the so-called, you're gonna call them a greeter or whoever, if you don't have a dispatcher, because somebody's gotta be there. When they call off, you have police officers that probably make 3 times as much as they make, that is sitting there for 8 hours or 12 hours, just to let people in and out of the door. That's what ends up happening.
yeah, and I do believe that our citizens do appreciate that face-to-face contact. When they walk in the door, they want to see somebody. They want to talk to a human
And they
being.
don't right now,
Well, that's-
because of the mirrors.
Yes, I
And
love it.
That's horrible. It does
And again,
not
yes.
promote community policing.
It does. That's
I
why.
walk in there, I don't know who I'm talking to.
Yes.
I go, and they go, I hear a voice, I'll
Yep.
be out in a second.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I understand being, not appreciating that mirrored reflection, but it's for their safety. If they have their back to the window, or if they're doing other tasks that they do, and they have somebody who wants to come in and harm them, which in today's society, we have
I get that.
Um,
But-
Unfortunately, that's the society we've grown accustomed to, and I hate it too. That's why the officers, a lot of times, when they call, we come out in the lobby and we speak to everybody, right? We go face to face when we can. So, yeah, unfortunately, that safety and security isn't needed anymore.
Yeah, I agree. That is difficult, but you're right. I think any police station you go in, it's like that. Some of them, you can't even talk through the window. You have to pick a phone up and wait
Yeah.
for somebody to pick it up, and you can't see or hear them. But a few things I wanted to say. On your, in your budget presentation, you have the 2026 budget expenditure summary, and you do show in there, like, the police department it's cut 10% according to this chart, correct?
Yeah, we are not defunding the police. That is
No.
because the $1.2 million grant is running out. It's almost complete, and that's why.
Then you have Public Works, it's a 30% cut.
And that's because we took the stormwater, the capital projects, the stormwater pipes, the gravel, and the concrete, and transfer that over to the general fund, or the capital reserve fund for more transparency.
Okay. Then I would echo what Zach said, and I know last month here, I was more in favor of looking at that stormwater fee too. Now, I did bring up during the meeting, I was concerned about that court case, and that would be my hesitation on that if we would start collecting a fee and we get a decision from the court that says we're not allowed to do it, we have to give all that money back. And then we're back to square one where we are now. So that, I did want to see something like that, see what it would be, but I get your point too about being fair and trying to accommodate all of our residents. And, but the court case is what kind of scares me, waiting for a decision for that.
If I may make some comments about the stormwater fee. I attended earlier today a stormwater summit in Wexford, and there was a good bit of discussion about the stormwater fee. And it was presented that challenge in Westchester was against the borough of Westchester, but authorities that have enacted the stormwater fee and charge it, that is perfectly legal. That's the only challenge, the borough of Westchester. So I think we're good there. And also, moving forward with our MS4 projects, our NPDS permit, we'll have a new one, I believe it's in 2028, 2029. And there's a switch from sediment reduction to volume reduction. So those are going to be big, major projects where we perhaps have to go into older neighborhoods, purchase property, and put stormwater retention basins to meet the volume reduction requirements. So that's a big elephant in the room. And while I got this microphone, talking about another big elephant is our road improvement program. The proposal for 2026 is a small Band-Aid. And I think John will agree, and Cody, that the condition of our roads overall, well, we have some good roads and some fair roads, are below average. And I feel that we're in crisis mode. And just this Band-Aid approach for 2026 will exacerbate. We should be at no less than 5% for a 20-year life cycle. We're in a 24-year life cycle. And I think eventually you're going to see a lot of your constituents in these chairs when their roads start falling apart further and exacerbating the crisis. So, in 2026, we'll take care of 5 miles of road, far less than we should be doing. So, if we stick with that in 2026, we really need to if we're talking about infrastructure, and that's one of the essential services of a municipality: fire protection, police protection, your utilities, your roads. Winter and snow and winter ice control, we do an excellent job, but we do below average on taking care of our roads. When we go out to sweep the roads, we can't sweep all the roads because we're creating potholes when we sweep the roads. We sweep up asphalt, and that just can't keep on going on, and it's been happening for years. And maybe I haven't said enough. I think I have, but I look at other communities. There's no reason why the borough of Trafford should have better roads than North Huntington Township. Monroeville, they have 60 miles less of roads, and their road budget is twice the amount. Borough of Plum, they have $1 million annual budget for the roads. They have 99 miles of road, but a lot of their roads are just chip seal. They have a 14-year life cycle. Monroeville, 16-year life cycle. We have a 24-year life cycle. That doesn't work. So I think there's some tough decisions, but you really need to take a look at you're talking about cutting, but to me, this budget doesn't go far enough. That's my opinion.
If I may, to backtrack to our department, I'll start out by saying this. I think any of you that know me and the way I look at things politically or through life, I'm the last guy that's going to blow the government department. When you look at figures, numbers, like Harry's doing it, and you're asking, it's very easy to say, well, we'll replace those people in November, December. I need 4 or 5 people this November, December. We cannot keep up with the work we have. We don't have enough guys to put an asphalt crew out right now. And we're paying a dear price for it. We squeeze it in maybe once a week. We throw a couple guys out to do asphalt patching. But the joke I make to everybody is if you really looked at the work that we have, I don't need pages, I need a scroll. Today we were talking about, I got to sit down with Ryan, Harry, Cody, Bob, and we're going to come up with a priority list of what we can do before the end of this year, because we have way more things that need dealt with than we can do. And then I intend on giving you guys, you ladies and gentlemen, an email to tell you what we're going to cover off the list that Harry had up. We're working on Wright Drive. There's 530, 540 feet of 30-inch pipe. The plywood on the hole in the ladies' yard has rotted away twice for them waiting for us to fix it for the last several years. It's a mess. That's just one example of the things we have going on. But the way I look at it is we have 30,000 customers. I want to give them the best customer service they can get. But we need people to do it. And I'll close with this. I would staunchly oppose waiting till October, November to bring in new bodies. We're replacing people that have been here 15, 20, 30, 35 years plus. And you're going to do it in December and drop a guy or a woman into a new truck, new route right before winter. It's not a good idea. No matter how much experience somebody has, they don't know the area, or, we can try to teach them things before winter starts, but our level of service is going to go from here, down until we get that person accustomed. But I know prior to my arrival at Public Works, which was going on 21 years ago, they had 5 more people then than we do now. So it's been up and down over the years, but what's starting to happen is everything's slipping away from us. And it's unfortunate we can't repair some of these things like Bob's talking about. I've been out probably 5 times in the last 2 weeks to housing plans, and it was ironic because it's the same thing I brought up last month. We have housing plans that haven't been paved since they were installed. I'll give a perfect example. We've up on Kerber Farms, we have a guy that he's beaten Ryan up for the last month now, and I want to help him. But it's almost an impossible situation. The road's cracked up all over the place in front of his residence, and we're capable of a lot of things. We're not capable of doing what needs done there. We have a joke. We say the road's BS. Well, it's beyond sweeping, because if we go out and try to sweep it to do asphalt patching, it's just going to come up from here to the parking lot. It's all cracked and broken up. We have that everywhere. Today I got a guy send me 4 pictures from Lincoln Hills, big stretch of road. The asphalt's all stretched from garbage trucks, our trucks, whatever, school buses stopping on it. Again, we're going to do the best we can to solve the problem before winter, because if we don't, it's going to just blow apart on us. But I would be remiss if I didn't sit here and tell you that there's major issues, and sooner or later we got to do something about it, because kicking the can down the road is going to cost us way more money down the road than it is now. And, I know our guys, we talk about it all the time. It's not just me, it's the guys that have been there for years. We want to do the best we can do, but we're understaffed. There's no getting around it, and I'd be lying to you if I tried to tell you different. We'll probably get to maybe, I'm going to estimate maybe a third of that list before winter, possibly. We just finished a road program work this week. Everything we paved, we try to do every little detail we could to make sure that once they're paved, that the stormwater's perfect, everything's going to be good and hold for years. But the cost of that is we're not paying attention to any of the other, not paying any attention, we're paying not enough attention to other things that need dealt with. The infrastructure's, again, I don't want to be negative, but it's crumbling and crumbling badly. Thank you.
In closing, my closing statement on this is I raise these issues because I'm trying to, I agree with you, John, and Bob and Cody, and we need a lot of things, a lot of major things. But when I see people, and I call the board, I call out the board, an administrator, and our lax attitude towards other people's money that we spend on frivolous things, and we undermine collective bargaining processes by trying to give things to people between contracts where the resident gets no benefit from it. We've given time off, early dismissals, extra days vacation, violating, not a violation, but undermining collective bargaining. So we have nothing to ask for next time when the resident can get something for it. And like July 5th last year, people were given off without regard to what it cost. And the police pension thing that was brought up earlier, a few months ago, or within the last year, there's clearly a bargaining chip for negotiations, and people want to just give it. And the street signs, township signs, the donations, charity, it's not our money. And the people should get something for it, every dollar spent. So it's all about changing the mindset of the top people. I appreciate your input, you guys. I feel for you. I know it's rough. That's all.
Anything else from the board? Comments, questions?
I would like to see maybe some numbers showing just the 1 mil increase that just reverts back to what it was before the decrease. And perhaps we can do a stormwater fee, I don't know, based around acreage or something. I don't know how, but I think the stormwater fee needs to be thought out a little bit more. I'm not sure if that's the best way to go, but I think we need more information to make that decision. I'd also like to see maybe that fee end or be correspond with our permit for the MS4. So, we need to know we're gonna need X amount of money for the first phase. We'll have some information about it's gonna change here soon. We might need to adjust it, but I think it should go along with what it's only gonna be into effect for the MS4 things and not dragged out.
Is that ever gonna end? Is there a sunset on it?
According to DEP, no, there'll always be
Yeah.
something. And keep in mind, this is an NPDES permit and a federal permit, along with federal commit could be possible federal fines. And I don't know if anybody's been fined, but it's the stormwater fee won't just be for MS4. It can be for any stormwater project, and we have many lined up. Haywood Road. I mean, you talk about kicking something down the road. 12 years ago it was $300,000. Now it's $750,000, and that project needs to be done. And we looked at grants and applied for grants, and we have not received anything. And there's other ones too. We'll look at Long Run and Jacktown Acres and McKee. Those are really big ticket items that can and would benefit from a stormwater fee. But we're looking to get the engineering work done this year and get shovel-ready projects ready. And you have your best chance for success for grants if you have shovel-ready projects, and that's our intent for 2026 to get all these. We have Haywood Road shovel ready. We have our permit. We don't do that project this year. The permit expires, and that's a shame that happens. Then we have to redo everything. We've spent a lot of money on the engineering permit, and that the permit will expire in I think it's July of 2026.
I'm just not personally ready to commit to a 3.5 mil increase. I think we need to maybe do a little bit more due diligence to see if we can make that not impact so hard.
So are you looking at a 1 mil tax increase with the general fund and a 0 mil increase for the capital reserve?
So that's why we would have the stormwater fee.
I mean, that's fair. We could look at that, but it will, I just want to let you know that if that's the route that the board wants to go, that I think for budgeting purposes and because the length of time that it's going to take to implement the stormwater fee, which probably wouldn't be until late spring, early summer of next year, I would probably put in the budget of 0 capital projects for next year, so that we would be the shovel-ready projects that we have or preparing for, will of course apply for grants. And we'll work on the McKee Road and Roth Drive and apply for grants, but, I would envision a budget with zero capital projects of that magnitude for 2026. But if the stormwater fee is implemented, that would be big in 2027. We would have whatever money we collected in 2026 and the future money revenue stream of 2027, and we can really go after those projects. But that's what I foresee if we go that route. But again, we need the commitment of the board. I know the board wants to see it, we're providing you numbers, and it's gonna be harder to kick that can down the road if nothing is done either this year or next year.
Keep in mind that that's your pollution reduction program of your MS4. That should be non-discretionary. That's an NPDES permit. And just like you need police and public works, you need to spend that money. You don't want the DEP coming after you.
Right. Assistant Manager Fonzie, do you have anything you wanted to add as far as your experience was trying to find a?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at different scenarios, acreage, zoning district, but without individually assessing each property for their impervious surface. And I was sort of reading the temperature of the board last week that we'd want to do this fair. Maybe I'm wrong, but should somebody in Westmoreland City with a smaller home and no driveway pay the same yearly rate as somebody with an 8,000 square foot house and a 800 foot driveway? I don't know. I guess that would be your call. It would be really easy to just slap the residential fee on it and be done with it. But if we try to assess individually, we have over 14,200 properties that would have to be assessed. So either I'm doing that work or we're subbing out to a consultant, and you're going to pay that consultant, I'm guessing 70, 80 grand to do that work for us. And that doesn't guarantee that it'll be done in a timely manner. And we'd have to set it up with the authority to start billing as soon as possible so that NHTMA can help us with the billing, because that has to get done through an authority. We can't bill for that directly. So we did run into a lot of issues. I don't know how to do it equitably without going individually, and you're talking over 14,000 parcels. So that's kind of where we're at, and that's why we stopped in our tracks and thought that the tax going into the capital reserve could get that money in the coffers quickly to earmark for stormwater and infrastructure projects.
And I would just, Bob, what you said about the court decision, how it may only affect that municipality, I would like to hear what the solicitor has to say, if there's a chance it could affect us.
So the issue that it's before the Westchester Borough case, it's before the Supreme Court, and it's the argument of whether it's a fee or a tax. And if it's considered a tax, what will happen is any political subdivision, like a school district, who's exempt statutorily from paying tax, then would not have to pay on that. There's actually, I'm involved in a case in Allegheny County for a declaratory judgment matter representing school districts trying to get out of paying a stormwater management fee tax. But we're sitting and waiting on the Westchester Borough case. So that's where that would really come into effect. And then it might also affect the nonprofits and things like that. So depending on who owns the property, and if it is considered a tax, then those entities would not have to pay it if it's considered a tax. So it's one of those things. I do want to point out there could be other statutorily prescribed exemptions for other political subdivisions, like a tax collection committee, a municipal authority, school districts, things like that, that may have another exemption keeping them outside the scope of having to pay this as well. For example, in the school code, they actually specifically list sewers and any fees associated with sewers. So it's an additional argument that's not before the Supreme Court right now, but it is an issue that is in the courts right now. So that could also come into play further down the line, that maybe the school district doesn't pay. But yes, it'll affect anybody that is statutorily exempt from paying a tax.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just to keep the board on a time frame, I know we're at November right now, and we're still plotting the course of this budget. We have to have the budget adopted by the end of the year, but we also need to have time to advertise the ordinances for that budget. But being next year is a reorg year, the budget can be reopened at the reorg meeting. And then I believe we have February 14th, maybe. It's a number, it's a date in February 14th that the budget must be passed. So if it gets reopened in January. So we're still, I feel comfortable. There may be an extra meeting or two by the end of the year if we can't get it ironed out. But worst case scenario, you can just pass a budget and then reopen it on the reorg meeting on the first Monday in January, and then we can go back to work. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And that's why I started the budget a month early this year, because it's a difficult budget to balance and to fine tune.
One more question, Manager Falk. You sent us an email saying there was an error in the budget. And I know, I think it was last year, that I caught one in your formulas, in the percentage increase
Yes.
and decrease. That was pretty significant. Who double checks the budget? You prepare it. Who actually looks at it afterwards, makes sure everything's right?
It's a shared document between our accounting clerk, Mr. Boswell, and our assistant manager, Mr. Fonzie. So we have three eyes on it, so.
Okay. And, okay.
But I'm only human, I'm not perfect.
Any other board questions or comments on the budget for right now?
So I'm under the impression next month's budget, the board would like to see a 1 mil for the general fund, a 0 mil for the capital reserve, and a projected stormwater budget. Is that my impression of the board? I know Commissioner Atwood presented it. I just want to get some clarity on what the board would like to see next month.
I'm just not ready to accept a 3.5 mil increase, no matter how it looks. I think we need to do a little bit more due diligence. I'm not sure what that looks like at this point. But yeah, I mean, if we can do some more cutting and maybe less of an increase, I think we can possibly make it happen.
Did we discuss last month, was when we discussed the stormwater fee, were we discussing a 1.5 mil increase plus the stormwater fee?
I think it was a 1 mil increase to the general fund, if I remember
Okay.
correctly, in the
Is that what it was?
stormwater fee. That's
Yeah.
what I was looking at, and I think I requested the Manager Falk to see what it would look like with the no tax increase and with the stormwater fee. And Assistant Manager Fonzie, I would say, I know it's not necessarily equal, but I think the only way we could do it is just treat every residential parcel the same, and then have the equation like we discussed, I think, last month for the commercial properties off of that residential credit or number. And that, I mean, that's ultimately, if we would go down that path, I think that's how I see it would work and look like.
We already have the commercial data. We have
Yeah.
that in our
Exactly.
system.
So, I mean, I would personally be comfortable with that, just speaking for myself, if we went with something like that model, at least to start with. And obviously, in the future, we could make changes or whatnot if we needed to. And I, like I said, totally understand the idea of credits, but I think that would be way too burdensome to have any type of credits for commercial or residential in any type of fee structure.
I think the way we had it was that ERU, equivalent residential
Correct.
unit, was equal to 3,000 square feet. And if a commercial property had 30,000, so they would pay
10 times that
the 10
amount. Yeah.
ERUs. And I believe most municipalities that have stormwater do have some type of credit. You know, if there's rain barrels, or they have an on-lot absorption system, or if they, you know, perhaps some that are contributing to a detention basin, that maybe there's a credit for that. I pay a stormwater fee, and my plan is connected to a stormwater detention facility, but I do pay 100% fee.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback on that as well, because similar to the NPDES permit, when you do a best management practice, the DEP will look at that you're doing something, and so they want to reward you for it. And it's very common. Most stormwater management fee ordinances that I've seen give some type of credit for those best management practices. I just want to throw that out there. I don't believe that area has been litigated. If we did not have it, I could look into that, but it's very common with the stormwater. Just throwing that.
Now, the 3.5 mil increase would be $74, and the proposed stormwater ordinance last month was $84. Now, with us just raising the millage, that frees up a lot more money to the road program instead of just dedicating it all to stormwater. I mean, I personally don't see much of a benefit to the stormwater fee. I'd rather see it just a millage. You know, get rid of the per capita and not create a new tax. Just stick with the millage. I would rather raise the millage instead of adding an additional fee.
No, that's a great point, Commissioner. You know, with that gives us the flexibility to put together a game plan. You know, we could take these lists of projects, you know, plan them out. You know, Mr. Oklinski can work on that priority list, along with Engineer Robinson for the funding. And of course, you know, in order to get these grants, they have to be shovel-ready projects, which means increased engineering fees, which are exorbitant. We spend an average about $125,000 a year in engineering fees. That's to prepare these projects for us to move forward. You know, they do that part, and we look for the funding, whether it be through grants or partial grants, or through the taxes, or through our funds. But that would, I honestly believe wholeheartedly that with that tax increase that is proposed, that gives us a greater financial flexibility. I've been doing this for 12 years, and this is the first time I've come to an elected body to raise taxes.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
And listening to Mr. Robinson speak, though, it's lump sum or big lump sum for stormwater, and another big lump sum for the road program. I mean, the stormwater fees. I mean, yeah, we could steal a little bit off of that for infrastructure, culverts, pipe work, but I think the millage would give us a lot more flexibility to move forward. Certain years, stormwater would be worse.
Mm-hmm.
Other years, the road program could benefit by investing a little bit more into it.
Right, and there's going to be years when we don't have to buy, these large pieces of equipment like an excavator, an end loader, but we can strategically do it, knowing that, okay, well, instead of this piece of equipment broke down, it's going to cost about $15,000-$20,000 to repair it. Well, we know when the funds start coming in of March of next year that we can get this replaced, we can save that $15,000-$20,000 to repair it, and use that towards the purchase of a new one. We'd be able to pay cash instead of financing, because now we have a good cash flow to save that that money, you know, of not financing those vehicles. But yeah, we've been operating on a Band-Aid, and it's needs to stop. I mean, we need more revenue. You know, Commissioner Gray, I respect your opinion, but we do our due diligence, spending. You know, we listen to the needs of the community as well, and the things that they want. We were in those comprehensive planning meetings. Ryan and I were part of that, and we heard the things that people expect of us. People have high expectations of North Huntington. You know, when I go around and they, you know, say, what do you do? And I say, well, I'm the manager for North Huntington. They're like, holy cow, you know, they put us up here, but we know internally, we see what we have, and it's subpar. We are competing, you know, against other municipalities. We're strategically placed, as you know, right off the turnpike, you know, and I've heard the stories of the Cracker Barrel or the Dix and all that. We're competing against North Huntington, or against Hempfield. Hempfield is doing a lot, you know. People are going to move their business and go live at Hempfield. We don't want that. We want them here. We're better, you know. If they go to our park and see that we have, you know, burn barrels for trash cans, that says a lot about the municipality. I can tell, you know, when you go on vacation or you travel elsewhere, you look at how beautiful that place is. You know, you can tell it's well oiled, it's well taken care of. You come here and you go to our park, and Christ, we didn't even have water fountains for our park's guests. Didn't have water fountains. Our previous director took them out. Didn't even replace them. Boy, that pissed me off. I'm getting off a tangent, but you know, but we can provide good, nice things for our residents. I beg to differ that we spend our money very well and very thoroughly.
I think you're missing the point of the items I noted. You brought up the garbage cans, but not other things that I opposed, and I won't rehash it right now. You can think back on it.
I understand, but I'll defend myself to, you know, I can defend every decision I make here to this board. Because if I can't, then my integrity's gone.
And just my last comment, I know we've talked about this for several years here, how we haven't raised taxes since '06. Whether that's prudent to keep going down that road or not, at some point, taxes have to be raised. And believe me, I don't want to raise them either, and I know what you got to look at is, do you raise them one mil and then in 2 or 3 years you got to do it again, or do we just raise it enough that we know it's going to last for 10 years, hopefully? And we don't know that for sure. Things can really change. So I think that's what we got to look at too. I mean, granted, I don't want to be one that votes to raise it, but sometimes it's a necessary evil. Sometimes you have to look, like I said, do you just want to go year by year and keep looking at it and try to raise it again next time, or do you just want to raise it where we can get our projects done? I agree with everything you said. Our infrastructure is crumbling, not only nationwide, but it's crumbling here in this township. I see it. I'm one of those neighborhoods that have the roads falling apart. In fact, I was going to talk to you guys, you and Harry, after I talked to you about it before, but there's roads in my neighborhood that I'm getting called on that are falling apart, and a street sweeper rode over them, just what you said. I just got a call the other day and the guy sent me pictures of how it tore up the road. And I know we're not slated to get paved anytime soon, so it is crumbling. And we see all this issues with over in Jacktown Acres with the flooding. You can name that everywhere in this township. So we do need a funding source to keep up with that, because we are falling behind. I do believe that.
I guess the only thing I might ask, or maybe wrap this up about the budget, is if we would do a 2% or 2 mil increase for the capital reserve, I would be interested. I know we used to get them. Commissioner Gray would probably remember them as a capital reserve plan as far as what we spend on for the next 5 years. And I know Manager Falk, you kind of mentioned that, but we kind of had it broken down by departments. And Director Fonzie, or Assistant Manager, excuse me, Fonzie probably remembers that as well, where it was broken down with each department's like five-year plan for capital. And obviously, those plans might change, but it's just an outlier. So if we were talking about possibly increasing the millage for the capital, I think that would be the first step too. We would need a plan for what we do with that capital.
And there, excuse me, there has to be some commitment to hold to that plan too.
Correct, yeah.
Because if there's a pot of money, somebody says, oh, I can use it better here.
And I appreciate all staff and doing budget talks, and I think like Commissioner Zonak speak on possibly raising taxes isn't difficult. That's why we've probably been talking about it for the last hour and 40 minutes. But you brought up Penfield, and I think people know they're building that nice park off Route 30, but they don't have a police department that's 37.5% of their budget. So we spend almost $7 million in our police department. No disrespect to anyone involved, but they're great. But they have that money set aside to do projects like that. And I think most of our residents are probably happy that we spend on our police department and have them here. But I think you're comparing apples and oranges because we're different class townships and they have different monies that go in different places than we do. So, I mean, it's been a while since I looked that up. And again, it's not a knock on the police department since I brought that up. But, I mean, I think typically most municipalities just spend about 30% on a police department, and we're at 37.5%, which, again, they do a great job, and I think most residents are happy that we do, but our numbers ticked up probably higher than the average on that one as well.
I'll get you data on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a few years since I looked at it, but I think most municipal data states that you should spend no more than 30%. And like I said, those aren't concrete numbers, that's just people that do municipal work and look at budgets.
And with that being said, I think Hempfield's budget is very close to what our annual budget is.
Correct,
The-
yeah,
The
and
full
so-
budget is without the police department.
Yeah, so they
correct?
got
Yeah.
another $6 or $7 million to
Yep.
spend on any number of things, if it's paving, parks, so yeah. We're not comparing apples and oranges when we talk about some of our neighboring communities.
Yeah, and they have a healthy tens of millions of dollars in the savings account to be able to do those projects. And not that the average citizen realizes that. And I see those comments and I just think, well, you're right, they don't have a police department, but they have a healthy budget as well to be able to do that stuff.
And they got a much bigger tax base to, where
Yes.
they're collecting taxes from that we don't have.
Yes. So, but we are competing against them. We're competing against them in Murraysville for businesses and for residents as well. But-
If I may say one more thing. It may not be the best example because there might be other ways around the project, but I think it's something that we all see in our travels. And I just want to give you an example of something you can look at and think about. Shannon Street down in Lormer. We have a first-class township with a first-class public works department. We slapped the road closed sign on the bridge 5, 6, 7 years ago. That's our answer. That's just not acceptable. It's just something, an example that we all drive by a couple times a week probably, something to think about. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, but you do have a passionate group of directors and team here that we do our due diligence. And I see that day in and day out, and we have a great team here. So,
All right, thank you, Manager Falk.
I'll present you some options for next month.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Item number 2, real quick, it's a 2026 MMO presentation. By law, I have to present with you the MMO for 2026 for the police pension and for the non-uniform police pension. for the total combined cost of $1.6 million that we have to budget for next year. We do get state aid. We get about $500,000 to $600,000 of state aid to pay towards the pension plans. That has increased $100,000 since last year and has increased $300,000 since 2023. 1.75 mils, or 0.75 mils.
Manager Falk, if I can ask, who sets the increase on that? Like, why does it keep going up?
It's based upon the wages. If you look on there, the estimated W-2 for the covered plan employees for 2025, we use the instructions are you take the salaries or the wages that you've gross wages from January to August, and then you use that and you estimate the wages from August or from September through the end of the year. The PMRS determines the normal cost, which is 0.17, and that's basically done by our actuary. That's done every 3 to 4 years. The actuary's done every couple of years, and that's where they get that figure. But there's a whole host of, this is how PMRS calculates our cost based upon the wages. And that's why that continues to go up. Any questions? Sorry.
No, you're good.
All right, moving on to item number 3, Violytics Paving Management System. So as you know, we've always used robotics. They went belly up. So municipalities are going with Violytics. We've reached out to them. They presented it to Mr. Robinson and Mr. Grabiak. Again, this is how we determine our paving program. The cost of the next couple of years is about $25,000 for the next 3 years. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Robinson, the importance of the Violytics paving management system.
Yes, robotics was a very useful tool in developing the road conditions and allowing me to predict what roads we're going to do on a 3-year basis. But unfortunately, they're no longer in business. And Ryan and Cody and I, we interviewed several firms, and we really do like Violytics. That they do more than what we need, but we can't do less. I believe Hempfield has just went with Violytics, and they will be a very useful tool. One thing they will also do, besides signs and the roads, guide rail, they anticipate having that module available. I'm not sure if next year or not. And again, we really, our guide rail system is probably worse than our road system, and we need to develop a program for guide rail replacement. With what I call the Band-Aid approach for next year, if the budget stays, what it is, it'll be in wards 3, 4, and 5, and I would anticipate staying there the following year in 2027 and staying in 3, 4, and 5, then moving to 1 and 2 and back to 6 and 7. So the wards in wards 6 and 7 will be 4 years.
How does this compare to what we were paying for the old other system, the cost?
Substantially more.
It's more?
Much more. Robotics, we would do a scan every 3 years, and it was $5,000. This is $27,000 a year. But it's not like they come out and do a scan. It's constantly being updated.
Is that 27 a year or for 3 years?
No, that is 27 per year. And that was equivalent to the other ones, and we couldn't find anyone that did what robotics did would come out and just prepare a scan when we needed it.
And Commissioner Zona, a little bit of background on robotics. North Huntington was actually their first municipal customer. So they cut us a sweetheart deal as long as they were operating. So other places were paying significantly more than we were. So unfortunately, they went out of business sort of abruptly and left us scrambling. And as Bob said, this is probably the most cost-effective and we thought was the best program out there. So we're kind of excited about it. But to not have this type of objective review of our pavement that would be detrimental. Commissioner McHugh's dad and myself used to do the road assessments manually. We did that twice, and it took me about 3.5 months. 3.5 months of my year was out with his dad, assessing the roads, and then post-processing through our GIS system. So this will be able to do it. We'll be able to constantly build that system, as Bob said. It'll save us so much time. So I know that cost looks high, and it is. I don't like to see that, but unfortunately, that's where these programs are heading.
Thank you. And then is that a piece of equipment that we get that we use, or does the company come out and do that?
It's a cell phone.
Okay, I see that says cell phones on the bill, yeah.
We would anticipate mounting one in the
Okay.
street sweeper, which would cover all the streets, but.
So it's continually, every time that vehicle would be out and
It's a
that unit is
continual
on, it's
update.
analyzing and updating, okay. And then do you have access to it on a computer or something to look at?
We would, and
Yeah.
robotics, it would take several weeks for us to get the data back, and this is just a few days.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions?
So you'll see on the next week's agenda to approve that, a 3-year agreement. Moving on to item number 4, the PennDOT Winter Maintenance Agreement. PennDOT has provided us with their agreement specifically for North Huntington Township and the roads that we would be doing. Sent it over to legal for review. The roads that are in question that we would be paving, or not paving, but winter maintenance that we currently drive on to get to our other roads would be Brownstown's Road, Brownstown and Robin Station and Hontown Wendell, for a total cost of $9,400 a year, for a 5-year total of $49,200. But this is the agreement that's specifically for North Huntington Township from PennDOT after they spoke to their legal and to their union. If approved, it would start this winter, correct, Mr. Grabiak?
Yeah, it would start this winter, although I do have a couple comments on what is in front of you. John just brought this up to me.
Okay.
Maple Lane was supposed to be on there. Maple Lane is Route 4014, but the section that they have labeled as Brownstown Road is that bottom piece from like Larmer Fire Department to the bridge. So that is considered Brownstown. So I am going to have to go back and check with PennDOT to confirm that we are going to do Maple or not. With that being said, John, are you still okay if they will not go with Maple doing these 3? Okay. Also, I did talk to PennDOT. The $9,470, they used total road miles for that and not snow lane miles. So it is actually twice that. It's 18,000 and change.
So we would need an updated exhibit from them.
Correct.
Okay.
Which would also increase the amount that we would be receiving.
Do you think we would get that in time by next Tuesday?
I can call her tomorrow.
And John, I know you had said before when we discussed this, these roads that if this is voted on and approved, your trucks travel these roads anyway, correct? I mean, you wouldn't be going out of your way to do any of these roads, you travel them?
No, it's Robin Station that encompasses right now 4 different snow routes. So it won't burden one truck per se to just be devoted.
And now
It'll just
you're-
get distributed through the driver sections now.
You're just, now you're driving it, but you're not plowing and you're not salting them. You're just
Correct.
driving
Well,
over
we're
them
putting
to
salt
get
in a lot
to.
of places.
Yeah.
I don't want to be redundant, but best example I can give you, we sat with the school district last year, and I was shocked to hear that one of the biggest problem areas besides Clay Pike is Hauntown Wendell. And I said, oh, Hauntown Wendell out past Teardown. They said, no, Hauntown Wendell between Barnes Lake Road and Main Street. Then after Ryan and I left the meeting, my wheels are turning, and I'm thinking, well, they don't have problems on the other end of Hauntown Wendell because we're salting darn near all of it right now and getting nothing for it. But our drivers can't get to where they have to go because it's gridlocked. But we don't really put much material on the other end, and they have a lot of problems. So the nutshell of this is it's probably a break-even amount of money, but it's just for the benefit of the community more than anything. Their service is atrocious. So it would just do all of us, it would be better for everybody.
I mean, I'll be open to doing this as a trial, as long as we get the different figures and whatnot, and try these few roads. Like the director said, snowplow trucks travel the roads and sometimes even treat the roads if they're unpassable. So even if it's a break even, I think it's a win for the community if it's a break even. And we're actually losing out on some money now when we treat the roads, because we have to get to where we got to go.
Correct. And just because everybody else does something doesn't mean you need to do it, the old adage. But I believe we're the only community, everyone that surrounds us has to deal with PennDOT. All the other surrounding municipalities do something. So
This
this
is that
is a
low-hanging
win-win
fruit.
for the residents and us.
This is that low-hanging fruit that we work to try to find.
And if we sign it, it would be a 5-year agreement, it says, correct? Under number 3, the term of agreement, it says agreement is for 5 years.
The agreement is for 5 years. Speaking with them, they did seem very flexible. So if something, say Robin Station wasn't working out for us, that we have an opportunity to send them a letter, as long as we do it early enough before the season, to say, can you take back Robin Station? And she said almost always they will say yes.
So if the board is okay, we can add this to the agenda, but if we do not receive that new exhibit in time by the meeting to vote on it, we could always table it. Is the board okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Item number 5 is the CDBG grant application for North Huntington Township Municipal Authority. Again, we have to apply on their behalf, so next week you'll see a motion to approve that grant application for them. And that is all I have.
Great. Thank you, Manager Falk. Planning and engineering topics, Committee Director Andrew Kovich.
Get it brought up here. Okay, we got 5 items tonight from the Planning Commission. The first one is SP 06 2025 Bear Peak solar panels. This is the proposed solar energy generating facility located off of Shoddy Hill Road that's preliminarily approved on July 17, 2025. The applicant is seeking a modification to the SAUDO Section 516.4H landscaping requirements. The applicant is looking to eliminate the low-level plantings, stating that they are not adding any additional screening, unnecessary cost, and additional maintenance. The high-level plantings will remain around the perimeter of the site, maintaining a visual buffer for surrounding properties. At the October 6th meeting, the Planning Commission granted the modification request by a vote of 4-3, and they would have also like to see a condition that if the township inspector verifies a complaint due to glare from the solar panels, the issues would be corrected within 30 days. So they actually have additional high-level plantings, which they extended around the top and right side of the solar panels. It's shaded in green, but it's kind of hard to see up on the TV.
Is there any questions from the board?
Director Andrikhovich, was there any discussion about the vegetation underneath the solar panels? And is that gonna impede the growth of that vegetation and therefore it's all gonna die?
I'm not exactly sure about that one.
I think they're usually stones underneath those. Like they'll sink the posts in for these panels and there's usually stone or gravel underneath. So I don't think there's gonna be grass to maintain or any
Yeah, there's
kind
not
of
gonna be,
vegetation
right.
underneath the panel.
I would
Because
kind of,
I'm just reading their letter, under their request, number one, it says, proposed project contains minimal impervious surface. Majority of the site will remain covered in meadow field. Well, if that's gonna, panels are gonna kill all the grass, I don't think it's gonna leave a meadow field. I don't know, I can't imagine they're tall enough for animals or such. I don't think it really leaves a meadow field. I mean, are we gonna have issues if that vegetation dies and all that water then would run off with the roots not being able to absorb it?
Yeah, I'm sure this is all being dealt with through our engineering firm, you know, on how that's going to be handled with the stormwater aspect of the project.
I don't know if I'm ready to grant a variance or a waiver on that vegetation whenever they seem to think that they're gonna be able to grow grass in the shade.
Yeah, they did state that the low-level plantings were not part of the stormwater calculation for the project. So, I mean,
Okay.
I'm sure they help in some fashion. Don't get
I
me
mean, I
wrong.
would think so. I mean, since,
Yeah.
you know, the solar panels are gonna direct, yeah, they're an impermeable surface, they're gonna direct the rainwater straight to the ground, which would lead to, you know, extra erosion. And it's all gonna be in, you know, the lines of the panels.
Mhm.
You know, it's gonna be the most common spots where the water hits, because it's not hitting, you know, a grassy field where it's gonna dissipate evenly.
And what was their reason for not wanting to plant the low levels? I was at the meeting, I heard the answer, but I was distracted. And did I hear them say they would have to expand the footprint of the facility to meet the megawatt requirement?
Correct, yeah. They would have to actually, the site would have to be larger to be able to facilitate the low-level plantings. They also cited additional costs, additional maintenance, and, you know, they're not gonna offer any more screening to the panels, you know, as a visual, hiding from the neighbors, because the high-level plantings are gonna take care of that.
And this, as a reminder, this is not a final approval. They need this modification. Is it for some financing?
They were looking to secure financing, and I believe the bank was looking for this.
So they'll still have to come through for a final approval once they address some of their other outstanding issues.
But they're
Do we
asking,
have-
sorry,
oh, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, Commissioner.
I was just gonna refer to the solicitor. If we okay the waiver and it turns out that there's something that, you know, like it's gonna be a big dirt pile at the end, do we have something to go back on? Or once we approve this waiver, it's waived?
Once you approve the waiver, it's waived.
I don't know if I'm ready to do that at this point.
And the high-level plantings, are they're trees, correct? With the
Those are
trunk?
trees, correct.
So, and I was here at that meeting too, and I disagree with what they say, that it's not gonna provide any more cover around there, because I think it will, because if that line is around there of plantings is all trees with a trunk, whatever kind of tree they're, if you have low-level shrubs and bushes, it is gonna block, I think it's gonna block it more. I think just with that tree, it's wide open, and anybody that drives by can see in there and see the panels, and
Right.
so I do think that, I would like to see the low level, and I know what they said, it's a lot more maintenance, and then probably what's gonna happen is the bushes are gonna grow out of control, and no one's gonna come and trim them, and they're just gonna,
Right.
that's probably what'll end up happening with it, but I think it will block more of the view, and I think if I lived in that area, I would like to see that, the low-level plantings there myself.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree, because there's not really any burden on them not to plant them, other than cost and maybe design.
Right.
Any other board questions or comments on that one?
All right, item number 2, the Cleveland Price expansion. They're also asking for a waiver. The applicant is stating that the waiver for the landscape requirements. The applicant is stating that the site is solid rock, which cannot support the required landscaping requirements. They're also requesting that a fence be used as screening for the above-ground utilities in lieu of the landscaping. The majority of the planning commission agreed that any high or low-level plantings would likely not root properly and therefore not survive. There are proposed vegetated beds throughout the parking lot and also around the building that will remain as part of the site plan. At the October 6th meeting, the planning commission granted the waiver request by a vote of 6-1. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this site and the amount of rock that is on this site. Any questions?
They did say those islands, they would have grass in the islands.
They would have
just-
grass, yeah.
They're asking for no landscaping, just
Right.
grass.
Correct. Yeah, the landscape, or the island still would have the grassy areas, and there's also some beds around the buildings that would also be grass and probably plants.
One question about this one.
Mhm.
If I remember correctly, the first time we saw this, they were requesting a second waiver for a turning radius. Is that still the case?
Yeah, there were the 2 other waiver and modification. One was for the driveway width from 25 to 30 feet. That was discussed last month and approved, and yeah, there was 2 of them. The other one, I'm drawing a blank on it.
This is just in addition to those other
This
ones?
is just in addition to the other 2,
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
More questions? Moving on to number 3, the JP Land Holdings and O'Neill lot line revision. This is the proposed. Did I skip one? No, I'm good. This is the proposed boundary line revision between 2 adjacent lots located off of Morris Avenue. Brian and Jamie O'Neill of 2501 Morris Avenue would like to acquire a .494 acre piece off of the neighboring property owned by Jake Petro of JP Land Holdings. After the revision, the O'Neill lot would increase to 9.422 acres, while the JP Land Holdings lot would be reduced to .918 acres. Both lots will meet the minimum dimensional requirements in their zoning district. There are no structures impacted by the boundary line revision. At the October 6th meeting, the Planning Commission recommended this plan for approval with no conditions by a vote of 7-0. The O'Neills own the piece in the light blue. JP Operations owns the green and is going to give the dark blue to the O'Neill property, which is, again, in the light blue. Is there any questions with this plan? It's pretty simple. Item number 4, Dunlap consolidation. This is a proposed boundary line revision located off of 3rd Street in Westmoreland City. Luke and Diana Dunlap of 916 3rd Street are the applicants and owners of all 3 parcels. Purpose of the consolidation is to allow for an addition to their existing house without encroaching into the side yard setback. Boundary line revision would leave Lot 1 with a total of .69 acres. The proposed lot would meet the area requirements for the R2 zoning district. At the October 6th meeting, the Planning Commission recommended this plan for approval with no conditions by a vote of 7-0. Any questions with this plan? And last. All right, number 5, the sheets consolidation. Going back. This proposed lot consolidation is located at the corner of Carpenter Lane and State Route 30. Robert Humey is the owner of all 3 lots where the Sheets building currently sits. They would like to consolidate these 3 lots for the demolition and reconstruction of the new Sheets building, which would extend over the lot line as it currently sits. After lots are consolidated, the remaining lot will be 1.86 acres in size. This lot consolidation is also a condition for final approval for the Sheets site plan. At the October 6th meeting, the Planning Commission recommended this plan for approval with no conditions by a vote of 7-0. Any questions with this one? Nope. And that is all I have for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further board comments? I just have one, I guess, maybe follow-up or question. Manager Falk, I think we received an email about a complaint of possible, like, a dog bite at Indian Lake Park. With some of the new cameras that we will be getting, will that be able to help maybe try to facilitate, like, some further investigation or background and things of that nature?
It's possible, yes. Again, those cameras aren't gonna be covering 100% of the trails, but at the same time, that's the only complaint that we've received at all for dogs at the park.
Okay.
So,
Any other board comments or questions?
Yeah, one thing, should we consider enacting a moratorium on BESS and solar plans until we have an ordinance to cover them?
I did pull a lot of ordinances over the last month. I was hoping to get it together for this meeting, but I didn't get a chance to get it completely together. But I am in the process of putting something together.
Well, if one comes in now, we have to approve it, though.
Correct. Right.
Should we enact a moratorium on them?
When do you think you'll have a draft? Do you think by next
Yeah,
month?
I'll be okay for next month.
yeah, so just give you a time frame. We can review that draft next month, and if the board is okay with it without any changes, we can advertise it in November, approve it in December, and it'll be good to go. But if there are changes, it could be until January till approval, or February, or depends how many changes there are. But,
And you do have the doctrine of pending ordinance doctrine, so should you not make a substantial change, that pending ordinance could be in effect, and that the applicant has to follow that pending ordinance, even though it hasn't officially been approved.
With all the new issues surrounding the BESS battery energy storage systems and the lithium batteries, I would feel safer having some moratorium on them. Any new development until we explore that a little more and are confident we've covered everything. So that's my thought.
We typically do see the roof mount solar panels, but in the last 2 months, we did get 2 that were field mounted. So I'm guessing maybe it's more cost effective, and maybe you're not, putting holes in your roof, so people are switching to these yard mounted solar panels, which, probably
They're
are
residential, the ones we got?
Residential, yeah. Probably not pretty to look at, but, something that should maybe be addressed.
I'm comfortable if you're gonna have something for us till next month. I'm comfortable waiting a month. I understand that we would possibly run a risk of someone bringing something to us before then, but I don't know if there's a long list of people. Maybe there is now, but I think we should be okay to wait till
I'm
next
good, I'm
month.
good with that.
Any other board comments?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor by state and aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Meeting adjourned at 9:13.